And
we're live.
Hi, guys. We are here live. It's our last virtual wine tasting.
Sort of.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's this big sort of. It's been a lot of fun. It's Charlotte and Jessica.
Yes, that's right.
Here we are from Aragon Wine Market in Pensacola, Florida, and we know that there's lots of people watching from all over the place. So hi, everybody. And if you have any questions, put your questions in. We'll try and answer them. But we're excited to try to get back to kind of some sort of normalcy here at Aragon Wine Market. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But right now, we have some things coming up that we want to talk about at the wine store. Father's Day.
Yes, absolutely. We have any number of different wines that are perfect for Father's Day, as well as ports. We sell cigars as well, some vermouths and different things that I think would be really appropriate. We can make baskets.
Jess has already done a great basket, and it looks really pretty. And I put a picture of it on Instagram. And so we're happy to do a basket, but you know what? Dad doesn't really want a basket. Just give him some wine and maybe a cigar and some stuff like that. They don't want, I know my dad, was happy with whatever I got him.
Yeah.
But really, most people don't need stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Consumables is where it's at.
Yeah, a nice cigar or a beautiful bottle of wine would be great. I joked a few weeks ago about my dad carrying this same hot pink wallet for literally so long that it was like, Dad, I can't believe you're still carrying that. But dads, they just want something that means something to them. And so if it's something that means something to you, come in and let's help you with a bottle of wine or something nice for them. But don't forget, you usually have one more weekend and then it's here.
And then it's here. So so come in, we'll fix it up something. If you want to give them a basket, of course we can do that as well. So
and we do local deliveries within a certain mile radius.
Call us for details on that.
Absolutely. And we're happy to still do curbside service for that as well if you just wanted to pick something up on the road.
We actually just had somebody come and do curbside. He is a regular customer and he calls and he says, coming in, need whatever he needs. He usually gets the same stuff, but not always. And we're happy to bring it outside to him. We've got a little curbside loading zone. You'll see the signs. We'll bring it right out to you, no problem at all. Also, if you have a little trouble parking out front, because we do have a cafe and we have a salon nearby, we do have parking in the back. So feel free to park around. You can park on our parking pad. And I didn't have a car for 3 years and the parking pad stayed empty. I do have a car now, but there's still parking. And
I ride my bike to work, so there's plenty of spaces available.
Right. And so, and you'll also see in the parking lot, there are 4 spots that I pay for yearly that have signs that say parking for Aragon Wine Market. So you're always welcome to park in those spots as well. Yeah. So feel free to park there. So we will talk at the end of this presentation about what's going to happen next week, because we've got some interesting stuff that's coming. This is our last scheduled virtual wine tasting on a Thursday. We may do some others, and you guys can give us some input on that as well. We'd like to hear what you have to think about it. But next week, the big news is that next week we will be doing our wine tastings in the store.
Hey, we're so excited to see you in person.
It's been so long. And we're actually going to do them in the courtyard. We've got Michael Fix coming. We're going to pick 5 or 6 wines just like we used to. We haven't picked them yet, so we don't know yet, but doesn't matter. They'll be great. And
I have no doubt.
And it'll be like normal again, sort of, because we'll be in the courtyard. We'll have a little more space. We're going to have a big fan, so it won't be too hot. So we'll talk about it more at the end of this show.
Yes.
But right now,
without further ado,
we're going to introduce our one and only. We've got a couple guys on deck. The huge Michael Fix from Winebow, who has been the nicest guy to help us out throughout this whole issues. Right there. The whole issues of, what are we going to do with virtual wine tastings? So I'm not sure why he's not coming up, but he's been so great for us, and we really appreciate, try that one. Or this one.
or any of them.
Yeah. So
I think it's Michael's computer.
We're not sure why Michael's not coming up.
Fix your froze.
Fix your froze. He's Kevin. Maybe it's my internet here. There he is. Hi.
Hello.
But he's been so nice to really help us out for the last 2 months. I mean, it's really been 2 months.
It's been 2 months
doing the wine tastings, and he's been here every week, and we really appreciate that. And he's going to be the one that will get us the wine tasting in the courtyard as well.
Yeah, we're excited to kick that off next week.
And we love him. But most importantly, we've got Charlie Master.
Definitely.
Master Wines, and he is, there's Charlie.
Hello.
Cheers, everybody. Happy Thursday.
Cheers.
Hi. So good to see you, Charlie.
It's good to see you, and thank God for people like you, Jessica and Charlotte, and of course, Michael. Without you, we wouldn't have wine in our hands right now, so thank you to you too.
Oh,
Absolutely.
of course. Yeah. I mean, it's been so interesting, because a lot of the restaurants were shut down and everything.
Yeah.
And so retail was like where it was at. And, we were just, we didn't know at the beginning, like, are we going to be open next week, or, what's going to happen? But, people needed their wine.
Yes, they did. And we are so thankful for that.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it was wonderful, a wonderful experience when, I guess to be deemed essential in that regard. And we can all agree that it's essential to our livelihood. But, certainly people definitely got to enjoy everything that they like to drink over these last couple of weeks, hopefully, if they came in and stopped by to see us. So, well, we're so thankful to have you joining us.
Charlie, where are you coming from?
So because my father and I and our partners make wine in France, Italy, and in the West Coast. And so we make wines in Oregon, in California, in Washington, and Italy and France. So I live right in the middle. So my mom and dad live in Rye, New Hampshire, and I live in Kittery, Maine. So we live about half an hour from each other.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's a rainy day here, but it's 80 degrees. It's very humid, not as humid as Florida, but some of my most memorable visits when I first started driving around in a car selling wine to people 10 years ago, I went with Giancarlo, and we went around Pensacola, Florida, and it was one of the most amazing trips. I met some of the most wonderful people, and I specifically remember how there was so many young, vibrant, energetic people in Pensacola, very uplifting and really cool concepts that were coming to life then. And I haven't been there in way too long. So I can't wait until we can travel. And like you were saying earlier, I just really miss customers and doing shows and hugging people.
Pensacola is a community that's we're definitely a vibrant, bright, energetic community with, progressive ideas. And
we're
committed to moving the city forward, and through your help and ours, and through wine.
We'd love to have you.
Love
to have you come back. It's been a while.
If Michael will let me, I will totally do it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll plan.
The Pensacola of 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it's definitely not the Pensacola of today. It's one of the most beautiful things to witness, the progression in a city such as ours, and just to see the growth and expansion and the businesses and everyone that have sunk their teeth in, and the development here. And we're really making a foothold here with our food and beverage forefront for sure.
Yeah,
I was very impressed by the food and beverage scene for sure.
Awesome.
Oh, it's even gotten better.
So
you definitely need to come back. And I see your dad's joining us on Facebook Live. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Good to
actually, I got a phone call earlier to clarify times, and I was like, "Wait, am I talking to the Mel?" And I was. So we're so happy to have you join us.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Oh
I
my
know
God.
your parents are from England, and I know that you did some studying and your, the beginning of your career in France,
Yeah.
and really kind of got your foothold. Tell me about, after your studies, kind of jumping into that winery and, kind of what grew that passion for you.
So after boarding school in England, I finished back in 1987. So it was the end of my 16th year, and my father gave me a choice. And we were having lunch because my parents had a restaurant called Jams in New York with Jonathan Waxman. So I came back and we were having lunch together at a little restaurant in New York City called the Quilted Giraffe. And there was a table close by with two gentlemen. My father recognized it was Sacha Lachine, who wrote a book called the Encyclopedia of Wine. And my father was writing his book about the wines of the Rhone at the same time back in the 60s. So they remembered each other, and he waved and they came over and they started a conversation. He was with Sacha Lachine, his son. And he said to my father, when your son's ready, send him my way. I'll teach him some more about wine. And so when my dad asked me what I wanted to do I want to go to college? I was like, no, I want to follow your path. You fell in love with Janie, my mom, and against all odds, my grandfather wanted him to become a brewer, and he said, "Screw that! In love with this amazing Scottish Irish woman, and I'm gonna move to France. She's got a passion for food. I've got a passion for wine, and we're gonna grow that." And that's really
19 and 20 too, right? They fell in love 18, 19, 19, 20.
They met when they were about 11 and 12.
Oh my gosh.
When they were about 13, 14. So by the time when they were 15, 16, they were starting to look at each other like that with that look.
That's amazing.
Nice. That's beautiful.
And they went to their 54th wedding anniversary. And I remember vividly asking my mother, 54 years, I've been married twice and I had a baby in between my two wives. And the woman that I didn't marry in between my two wives is the one I get along the best with. And I'm like, so Mom, how do you do it? How do you have a long relationship like that? And she looked at me with a very serious look and she said, Charles, in this specific order, wine, compromise, and acceptance is the perfect thing for a great relationship. And I laughed.
Oh my goodness.
Can you text me that?
Yes.
I know, right? I said, Mom, that's hilarious because if you drink enough wine, you can compromise and accept everything. And
Absolutely.
She said, exactly, you're helping relationships. Sell your father's wine.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great. That's so great.
Yeah, that's
Here's helping relationships, y'all.
Agreed. Years.
So I decided to go work for Alexis Lachine. So I went from 1987 to 1990 and worked at Chateau Prieuré Lachine. And unfortunately, he passed away after 2 years of cancer. So I was one of the pallbearers in the funeral, and we ripped up 10 of the most important vines at Chateau Prieuré Lachine, and that's where Alexis Lachine is buried. And I ended up working for another year and a half, and Sacha Lachine was the one that took over, who owns Whispering Angel and Chateau Escalon now.
Sure.
And it was one of those most magical experiences. And one of the other big influences I had in my life is being the son of a chef. And also her mother was a botanist and an artist. And so my mother knew a lot about plants and flowers and herbs and spices. And so when I was growing up, she used to pull the car over and make me hike half a mile up the side of a mountain at the age of 8 years old to smell the bark of a eucalyptus tree. Or she would be gardening outside and she would make me come outside and smell the wet dirt on her spade. And I thought she was cuckoo, but she was building my palate to become a chef. And I love to cook. And I think I'm a very good cook, unless it's more than 10 people, then I get really stressed out. But I love that. And I think that really helped my palate to become a really great wine blender and a winemaker.
That's a really neat story. And don't we wish all our parents helped us out in that way? What's your signature dish?
It's funny. My signature dish is bœuf bourguignon because it's one of my favorite dishes that my mom made when I was growing up, and it takes about 2 bottles of red wine and half a bottle of cognac. So it's a really decadent, amazing dish, and it takes a long time. You have to be patient because it almost tastes better the next day after it's cooled down in the fridge and you reheat it. But I have a dish that I learned while we were on the road looking for the specific white wine that we're going to taste, the Mont Gravet White. And we were driving around this wonderful little tiny village in the middle of nowhere in Gascony. And we went into this restaurant and we had this waiter that came out and brought these little hors d'oeuvres or, canapes. And it was a little plate with these 5 little squares on it. and I tasted it, and it was one of the most amazing things I've ever tasted. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? I must meet the chef. And so the chef comes out and he says, you know, in his French, we all speak French, and he was like, oh, monsieur, it is very simple. I mean, of course, he said it in French, and he said, it's very simple. It's very good butter, very good blue cheese, and very good bread. And you put them together, 1 part butter, 1 part bread, 1 part cheese. You mix together, you spread on bread, you bake in oven 400 degrees, 10 minutes, best hors d'oeuvre ever. So
can you text me that as well?
I will happily do a presentation of that hors d'oeuvre and teach you guys how to do it while we're tasting wine. I've actually done that in some Zoom meetings recently.
Love it.
Yes. No, you have to come to Pensacola because I want to taste it.
I will do it in person. Yeah, but I mean, anything
absolutely.
like blue cheese, butter, and bread and toasted, and it gets all crunchy and yummy. It's amazing.
Yum, I'm hungry right now.
I do the same recipe with goat cheese and roasted garlic and sun-dried tomatoes. It's incredible.
That sounds amazing.
That's
kind of a good segue into, you talked about the first one that we're going to try today. Oh, wait. There we go.
Yep. The Mont Gravet.
Yeah, tell us.
Yes.
So tell us first about the winery, how you found them.
So, I definitely will. The one thing great about what my father and I do, one of the reasons we got into this business is when we traveled around France when I was a young boy, we go to these little restaurants and we taste these amazing wines that were served in carafes.
Right.
And, you know, these wines, most of the time, were never sold to the masses. They were only sold to the local restaurants within the area where the wines were produced. And so that's where we found a lot of these wines. So we did find this wine almost, 20 years ago. And so we work as negociants. We work with these small farmers. And so the first time we found this wine in a little restaurant in a beautiful little, bistro in the countryside. And we would go into the kitchen and meet the chef and try to get to know him very well. And sometimes my mother would have to pinch his bum and find out, the name of the owner of the restaurant. And then we'd find out, where they bought their wine. And we'd go to visit that winery or that domain. And we tell them that we tried the local wine at the restaurant and we fell in love with it. We'd love to sell it in America. Would they be interested? And they would, of course, all the great music and movies comes from America. So that most of them were like, America, yes, we'd love to sell our wine there, but they don't have to deal with the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms and what kind of bottle, what kind of label, what should we call it? I was like, no. You just keep doing exactly what you're doing. We'll buy your total wine production and put it into our bottle and bring it to America. And that's kind of how Mont Gravet, Tortoise Creek, Tiamo, XM, all the wines that we make were created in that way. And so we're trying to...
We sell a lot of all those. I mean, they're just wonderful wines at a wonderful price that are kind of under the radar.
Absolutely.
The Tortoise Creek Pinot Noir is just like we have to have it or people will revolt.
Charlotte, that means so much to me. That makes all the chaos of work worthwhile, hearing that. In our jobs, it's not brain science, it's rocket science or anything like that. We're selling, great juice that's grown from the ground to people that love, juice. And it's a wonderful, magical thing. The food and wine industry, to me, is one of the most magical industries. In our family, food and wine is like oxygen and water. And I think we all feel the same about them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think a good note that, I don't know, I think Michael Fix may have said it, or I don't know who said it a few weeks ago, but, traveling abroad, and when I went to Rome for a week, and all of the wines that are served, like the table wines that are in the barrels that aren't necessarily in the bottle, that don't necessarily have the labels on them, are really some of the most incredible wines coming direct from the vineyards right there.
Exactly. And all over Europe, those wines very often do never see a glass bottle. They are consumed by the locals. So that's one thing that's so special to us, because if we actually own the vineyards and the tractors and the farm, these wines would be $16, to $28 a bottle.
Yeah.
And so we're able to give this great value to customers because we've got the farmers doing what they're really good at. My father and I do what we're really good at. And then our partners, the Sagers, do what they're really good at. And so you have these three really important parts of the industry that have married together to create an amazing experience for the general consumer, which is something that we've always thrived our business off of, is giving every day, Monday through Friday, drinking wines to the general consumer. And then, of course, on the weekends, we drink other people's wine sometimes.
Well, and
I like that.
that's so. We didn't tell the price point of the wines that we're doing tonight. Or it's like we sell them for $10 a bottle. I mean, that is definitely a every night of the week.
Yeah,
kind
you
of
hit the nail
price
on the
point.
head. $10 a bottle.
We
Drinkable wines.
we did these wines. So before the pandemic, we had a wine featured wine for a monthly wine that we did every month. And we did these, I think, in maybe December, January. I can't remember. They were the most popular ones. Everybody. So the white, the Colombard, the rosé, which is Cinsault.
Yes.
And the red, which is Carignan.
Yeah, Old White Carignan, yeah.
Did all three of those, and that literally sold out every week. We did the featured the wine feature for that month.
That's probably, I think my brother Preston came into town. You met Preston, I believe, yeah?
Yeah.
He came in, and that was, yeah. And for me, those wines they're all made with grapes, that unless you're like us, that are real wine geeks that love wine and study wine, even though no matter how much you study wine, it's hard to figure out. It's very much like, I remember my mother saying, after working for 3.5 years in Bordeaux and reading all the books that I've read, and I came back to California, my mother was excited to see this very confident young man who knew tons about wine. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mom, I just, after studying wine for so long now, I realized there's so much more to learn. My mother looked at me with this big grin, and she's like, Charles, wine is very much like women. You can study it all your life, and you're never going to figure it out. But if you get enough of it, it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. So all of a sudden, wine became much more enlightening. You know, there's not a black and white. It's a gray area because it's very individual. And one thing
I've always said that, like, wine, you're going to always learn about wine. There's never going to be a time in your life that you're going to be like, well, I've learned everything I can about wine, so that's it. You know, it's a ever learning process, and I like that about it. So
that's why I love wine so much. And of course, both of you, Jessica and Charlotte, is because it's never ending and always changing and very interesting. And one of the great
Absolutely, yes.
Like what's the trend now is like natural wines, and you know, there's all kinds of stuff.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the white that we're drinking right now, which is
so refreshing.
It looks like maybe Fix is frozen, but he also might need some white.
I'm on it.
Is he raising his hand?
He's on it.
Well, I want to say the tasting notes on this wine. I did a blind tasting right before the pandemic hit. And it was about 68 people at a wine dinner. And we did the first wine blind because I wanted to show people the dynamics of food and wine. And so we poured the Mont Gravet White to everybody in the audience. We didn't show them the bottle. And of course, this is the first wine. And, you know, some people, when they first tasted the wine, they did that kind of face where it's like that. And I was like, okay, everybody that just got to the tasting that brushed your teeth or chewed gum, you know, take a bite of the cheese that's on the table in front of you and then taste the wine again. And most people couldn't believe that it was the same wine because the dynamics of food and wine is very key. If you have chewing gum or brush your teeth with toothpaste or mouthwash or anything like that, it ruins wine. Just like having a chocolate bar before having a really bright, fresh Sancerre. It's not a good idea. But so I said to the audience after that whole very funny part, they were blown away and they were like, oh my gosh, we love this wine. It's amazing. And I was like, tell me what you think it is. And almost everybody in the audience thought it was Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand because it smelled like grapefruits. And so this wine does have a little bit of that pink grapefruit, fresh cut grass, tropical fruit going on.
I mean, I can see that, but I don't think I would have ever guessed that. I
No.
mean,
It's refreshing, and I pick up the citrus in it immediately.
Citrus, but it's also had this black currant. Like if you've ever grown black currants or currants, the leaf of the black currant has this herbaceous black currant cassis smell. You can actually smell cassis, which is a really dark berry, but I can smell cassis in this wine, and it's very bright and but it's a wine that's refreshing. And an interesting story about food pairings. Go ahead.
Just to stop you real quick, is tell everybody what the grape is. It's 100% Colombard.
Colombard, which is a cousin of Chenin Blanc. And so Colombard, which is very common to be grown in this region, the Côte de Gascogne, this region is famous for making a brandy, which is almost as prestigious as cognac. It's called Armagnac and Basse Armagnac, and it comes from the same region, Gascony or Côte de Gascogne. And this region actually has these wonderful pebbles in the vineyard, and you can actually see it here on the label.
Yeah.
And the reason they are that shape is because back in the ice ages, there was a glacier on the continent of France, and as it melted off the continent of France, it dumped tons of minerals into this area, which is why this wine has such great minerality. And the Colombard grape, usually in this area, is blended with Gros Mansang and Uni Blanc, but this is 100% pure, which you don't get very often.
Yeah.
But this grape, when it's pure like this, it reminds me of Chenin Blanc, because Colombard is actually a cousin of Chenin Blanc, which makes a wine called Vouvray in the north of France. It's colder climate, so it's a different style wine, and of course, different grape, but it's similar. It's got high acid, so it makes your mouth water, which is why it's so great with food, but it also has a lot of fruit. So it appeases both the dry white wine drinker as well as the kind of more fruity wine drinker. So it appeases lots of different palates.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
I don't know what
We don't know what
happened.
that echo was, but
There was a
That was
crazy echo, but
Was that my dad? Was that the Mel?
I don't know if it was the it might have been the fix, but
we're gonna blame fix.
Can you hear me now? Do I have any
Michael,
problem with
Michael? Yeah, dude, Michael.
Twilight
with
Zone.
me? I was gonna say people who like Chardonnay usually like this wine, and people who don't like Chardonnay usually like this wine. So it's so great. It's a great wine for those people who like Chardonnay like wines, but it's also a really good anti-Chardonnay at the same time. It's really good in that way. I love its malleability, especially like talk about with food for both of those types of people. Which I think if you're somebody who likes Chablis or something, nobody can hear me.
No,
I can hear like every word.
All we heard was if you're somebody that likes Chablis, that was the only thing that we
I
heard.
love it though.
no, I know. I know you have good stuff to say, but
Michael, I'm so flattered. What I understood was very flattering, and thank you very much. I agree. I can't wait to drink some wine with you, mate.
yes. Charlie, you've
Yes.
got to come to Pensacola.
Definitely.
I can't wait. Can I show you guys a picture?
Absolutely.
So here, let's see if I can do this without ruining everything. Here's me and my dad. Actually, can you
Hold
see that
on.
picture?
We gotta get you in the screen. There you go.
Cool. So that's actually my mother, and this is us while we're taking. You can see Mont Gravet right here in the middle. So these are all these different. This is like what they call a lazy Susan, I guess, here in America.
Sure.
One of these tables that spins. And so these are all the different regions of wines that are in the area where we're tasting wine. This is actually Xavier. He's actually one of the farmer owner enologists that actually helps with our wine production. And so this is actually what we do during the production part of our wine. We sit at a table like this with my mother there, who is a chef. So to have a chef palate in the room while you're tasting wines is actually beneficial to making wines that are for everybody.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
And then I have one more here.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get this one right. Do you see that? Do you guys see that one?
Hold on just a sec. There
Yes.
you
There we
go.
go. So this is me and Dad. That's the Mel, as I like to call him. And see these old gnarly vines?
Yeah, that's awesome.
These are between 60 and 120-year-old vines, and that's the vineyard of the Carignan, which is the next wine we're going to try.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I love southwestern French wines. You don't see a lot of them, and they're kind of odd, and they're interesting, and that's probably why I like them. How did you find these wines?
I love this area. I lived in the Corbière back in my early 20s because I fell in love with this area, and I bought a small home with my first wife, and we lived in this area. And back in those days, my father was making a wine called Les Jamel, and Les Jamel came from the name Janie and Mel, my mom and dad's first names put together.
Mm-hmm.
And so now here I am, 30 years later, it's taken me almost 50 years to get half of my name on one of the labels, because now we have a line called Les Charmel, which is an abbreviation of Charlie and Mel. So those are our French, a little bit higher tier than this. So the Mont Gravet, which is our entry level, the Les Charmels are kind of more higher end wines, which are still less than $20. But this is a picture of us. Actually, we're traveling around this region. And so I used to taste all these wines. We've tasted so many different wines, and I would pick like the top 20 wines out of a month of tasting like 100 wines a week. And I would send samples to my father, and we'd meet back up in Provence, where my mother and father had a house where the name Tortoise Creek came from, outside in the area of the Var. This is actually where we created a lot of these brands and created a lot of these.
That's cool.
During
are
that
the Tortoise Creek wines, and I probably should know this since I sell them, are they from the Provence area?
No, so the Tortoise Creek wines are all from California now.
Oh, okay.
So when we first started Tortoise Creek, we actually we only made French wine.
Yeah.
But then we've evolved throughout the years. That's almost 20 years since we created the brand, and we've started Ti Amo from Italy. Then we had the XM from Bordeaux. Mont Gravet was, kind of bizarre grapes. That's why the rosé is a Sanso, which is 100% pure. You don't see that grape by itself very often, but it is one of the blending grapes they use to make Provence rosé, which is why that wine smells like strawberry jam, and it's really Provençal in style. We make it very similar to our Les Charmel Provence wine.
Yeah.
But this grape that you're tasting now, that white, we harvest those grapes at night, and the reason we do that is because we want it.
Oh my goodness. She's empty.
We want it to be cold, and so we want this cold maceration period, which is why we harvest at night, because we don't want the fermentation to start. So we want to leave the grapes hanging in after they've been picked, for about 10 hours to get this kind of, this meld these flavors together, and then we do a slow cold fermentation. And this is the wine that is produced. It's very fresh and clean. And like I was saying before, this is one of these wines that goes with so many different things, from like simple raw oysters to like my favorite things is spicy food, like Indian, Mexican, Asian food is incredible with this wine, but it's also good with like Mexican scrambled eggs for breakfast.
I think that's what Michael was trying to say, was that it's like one of those wines that if you like Chardonnay, you'll like it. If you don't like Chardonnay, you'll like it.
Right.
Because it's
I love that.
Because it's got the heaviness and richness, I'd say, of a Chardonnay, but it's also got a lightness and crispness, if that makes sense.
It really is
aromatic, and it's got a lot going on.
Yeah, which is why it makes your mouth water, and so it almost is encouraging you to like pick up a piece of cheese or have a bite of some potato. You want to have something fatty almost after you drink this wine, because the wine tastes so healthy with the acidity and the tannins. All that stuff's breaking down fat. So let me get some fat in me.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
It's delicious.
And the more you talk about food, the more that I absolutely do want food. So
what would your favorite pairing be with this? I mean, you come from a line of chefs. I mean, what is their go-to with this white?
There's a couple different go-tos for me. Like one of my favorite things, which my doctor told me to stop eating, is fried chicken. And so, oh my gosh, this is so good with fried chicken. And talking about the acidity and the tannins to help break down the fats, it works great, but it still doesn't save you from, the badness of something that's fried. But one of my favorite all-time things is pho. Believe it or not.
As some of
my friends call it.
Of course, Jessica agreed.
P-H-O.
But I was like, gosh, I don't want to say something that's wrong. And,
No, it's pho. It's
but
pho.
I totally, especially adding the sriracha. Yes, that's what Charlotte's teaching me, is that your palate
is amazing with this. Sriracha on toast.
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely.
Oh, my gosh, Jessica, I can't wait to meet you. You guys are awesome.
You got to come.
Well, we've definitely got a couple of amazing
places,
restaurants downtown that'll take care of that faux need for us.
Yeah.
So
perfect. I mean, the cilantro and the lime and the jalapeno, as they say in Mexico, all of those three things blended together with the fattiness of the veal stock. Oh my gosh, it makes this amazing combination. Then you have the starch from the rice noodle I mean, it complements so well. And then when you drink a sip of this, it puts the fire out of the jalapeno, but it brightens the cilantro. And so it's a really cool blend for that. But it goes also with like, like I said, Mexican food. It's great with like, chimichurros and
Yeah.
quesadillas.
Great Mexican places here
We do.
too. But we're gonna say hi to Yvonne. We're gonna say hi to Danielle. And
Hello.
how about if we
Transition.
move into that Carignan?
Yes, please, let's do that.
So let me ask you. So Carignan, I think we've all probably had it before, but we had it as a blend because it's kind of a blending grape, and you guys decided 100% that's what we're doing.
It is, and it's very rare to find this grape not blended. Basically, Carignan is very quite popular in the southern parts of the Rhone, in northern parts of Spain. But this grape, it's funny. I did a wine tasting recently, and people kept looking at when you look at the actual name on the label here, and they were like cardigan. How do we say it? When you go on an airplane,
We've had that.
You take you take carry-on luggage, and so if you say carry-on with a French accent, that's exactly how you say the name of the grape. And one cool thing about this grape is when it's a very young plant, it produces many tons per acre. So we're talking like between 5 and 8 tons of grapes per acre of land. So it's a big producer of grapes, which is why it's such a popular blending grape, because it helps the winemaker kind of fatten up the actual wine production that they're doing. But when it gets old, it produces a lot less wine. So a really good example of that, the grapevine is very much like us humans. The more stress that we go under and the more hardships that we go through, the stronger we become as humans. Well, it's very, very much the same with, which is why this pandemic's going to make us all better.
Yes.
But it really does, right? But the one great thing about that is like, when you do get stressed out that much, these plants, if they have drought, this is the Hérault Valley, which is the northern part of the southern part of France. So it's like right at the base of the Ardèche Mountains at the beginning of the Hérault Valley.
Wait,
So
the northern part of
the Hérault.
Yes.
Hérault. So it's a very hot area. It's a higher elevation, and you're more inland, so you don't have a lot of the sea air. So it's hot and dry, and so the plants can get like years and years. Like in Lodi, with our Tortoise Creek Zinfandel, we had a drought that was like 8 years long, and it stressed the plants out to no end. But all that stress makes those roots grow deeper and extract more minerals from the soil. And so all that stress makes the plant more powerful, just like it makes us humans more powerful. And in the same context, the older the plant gets, the less it produces, but it produces better. Kind of like my dad, he's 70. He does one thing at 100% every day perfectly. I'm 50. I do like 6 things a day at like 50%. So like the older you get, you produce less stuff, but what you produce is better. And so that's a really good way to look at it.
Quality over quantity, yes.
Yeah, that's nice.
But Carignan, when it gets old like this, it's incredible because if you swirl this wine and smell it, it smells like prunes and plums and raisins, and you have almost this garrigue smell, which is like rosemary and thyme and oregano and lavender, but you also smell bacon fat and all these kind of funky things that makes you think you're drinking a Rhone, but then you taste it and it tastes like Pinot Noir. So you're like, what's going on? It tastes spicy and intense, but it tastes soft and elegant and smooth. So it's a really cool wine again with food.
That's why I really think I like the wines from that southwestern part of France, and you just don't see them a lot, and it's so refreshing that you guys have them.
Charlotte, I love you said that because you mentioned that earlier, and Corbière, which is one of the regions that we make our the Mont Gravet Rosé, which we're not trying today.
Oh, but we have.
No, but we have.
We have actually tried it tonight. That's
in a blind tasting, you could almost tell it's like similar to Provence Rosé. It's got that same acid. It's not sweet. It's not too dry. It's got good fruit. It smells like strawberry jam and pears. But see, these are the kind of wines that we really love to drink every day. And they're the reason that they're so value driven is because they're made with grapes that most people haven't heard of unless you're wine geeks like us.
That's exactly it. You know, when I came on board, I started early February with the team, and you know, I thought that I knew a lot about wine, and just like we were saying, you know, you never stop learning, because I was immediately like, I don't know so much about wine.
Right.
Because, you know, behind us is like the periodic table of those all different grapes.
Intense. It's intimidating.
Not Merlot, Chardonnay. It's not just like 6 of them. There's so many of them.
It's like trying to learn about every woman on the world. It's impossible.
You never will. Love the one you're with, right? So right now is the Carignan.
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 I love that it's a grape. All of these are grapes that we've not, you know, most people have not heard of.
And, you know, interesting thing, too, about Mont Gravet, the actual words Mont Gravet in French means hillside gravel. Yeah. So Mont Gravet, the gravet is the small gravel rocks that are in the vineyard, and Mont is so all these wines come from the south of France. They all come from mountainous areas. They're all like value driven, the kind of wines literally that we want to drink every day. And that's one of the things why I think they go with so many different types of food, you know, from the white. I've had this white wine. I have a friend of mine. I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but he likes dry white wine with foie gras. And most people like foie gras, which, you know, foie gras is very fatty and sweet.
And sweeter. They want a sweeter wine.
Yeah. And you want something sweet to go with it usually. But I remember my father, when he had Mel's Bar and Grill in Denver, Colorado, which was a great restaurant, we took all of our staff who won this competition, you know, to California. And we went on a tour of, I think it was called Chateau Saint Jean. And it was a pretty, you know, it was a very big label at the time. And we went in there and we had this tour. There's almost 20 of us. And we sat in this big tasting room, and we had this like sommelier person who was kind of walking us through the tasting. And she was a little bit like Nurse Ratched. And she was like, and this is what you drink, and this is how you do it, and this is how you drink it. And like towards the end, we were tasting, you know, an old late harvest wine, and she said, like, this is the only thing you can drink with this is foie gras and sweets. And my father raised his hands. My father was like, well, what happens? I have customers in my restaurant that like steak with Sauterne, and she's like, oh no, that's not okay. So my father said, all right, everybody, let's get up. We're leaving. So. You know,
I love that story. I love that story so much.
Like, the customer's always right.
Yeah.
And, you know, there is no right or wrong with wine. So,
yeah, absolutely. We are, so the wine store here, I mean, we've fought against the reputation of being fancy because we're in a nice neighborhood and the store looks nice and that sort of thing. And so, but we're all inclusive. And I mean, you come in, that's fine. Whatever you like, that's what we're going to help you with. And
absolutely.
We have wines that start at $7, and we have wines that are, you know, hundreds. But it doesn't matter. I mean, you know, that to me is more important to me than anything. I don't like the, you know, absolutely. I don't like the rules.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't like the rules.
You know what? Judgment too with wine. Wine shouldn't come with judgment. If somebody comes over to my house knowing I'm a winemaker and they bring a bottle of Yellowtail, I am not going to judge them. I might laugh a little bit at first. I'll give them a hug and I'll give them some of my wine. But, you know, I don't want to talk badly about any wine because there is no bad wine. Wine is a very personable perspective.
Thank you. And I really like that perspective because that's the same perspective that we have here at the wine store because, I mean, we have, you know, no judgment. What you like is what you like. And, I mean, that's fine with us. I just want to know what you like to help you figure out what I've got here that you can buy.
Yep. What was the question? What do you normally drink? What are you preparing it for? And how much do you want to spend?
I love that.
Those 3 guiding questions can really lead you through anything.
There's no judgments here.
There's no judgment.
I like the fact that you guys, and your wines, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they've got great prices. And I will say that is, I believe, the fact that they were so delicious and they're great prices is what has made them sell so well and has made them, when we featured them for the monthly wine tasting, blew it out because
Yeah.
people loved them.
And I think the misnomer is that an inexpensive bottle is necessarily not going to, it may not be very good. And I think that is absolutely such a misconception that people have to get over, for the same token of what we were talking about, that we will get phone calls of, do you have any wines that are under $40? And it's like, well, of course, like
Everything.
a lot of them, like the majority of stuff.
Everything is under $40.
Except for the stuff in the cooler, like the main cooler.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. Breaking down the misnomer that inexpensive wines aren't going to be delicious, or be good, be of quality. Whether they taste okay is one thing, but a quality wine, and these certainly are.
And I've always said that, you can, it's easy to find a $40 bottle of wine that tastes delicious. You got to look for $10 bottle of wines that taste delicious. And we do. And your guys hit the nail on the head with that.
That means so much to hear. And I totally agree with you. Supply and demand. Once a great wine that's produced, like there's many of them from France and Spain. And as soon as someone like Robert Parker gives them, more than 95 points, those wines go from less than $20 a bottle to like $100 a bottle overnight. And, those wines only really taste good when somebody else is paying for them. And as much as they're really great wines, once you get to that point, unless you have like a really, big expense account of some sort, or like a huge inheritance, these are the wines that I want to drink every day, that don't stress me out. They're fun and simple, just like I think the best kinds of cuisine and the best kind of women, like fun and, complicated and sophisticated and smart.
Pensacola.
I can't wait to come down there. I'm going to cook for you guys. I want to cook for you guys somehow. So maybe we can rent a house and like invite some customers. Whoever really liked this tasting, let's do this. We
totally.
Oh yeah, it sounds like an Aragon wine market, like dinner raffle, entertainment, dinner with Charles, Master, Charlotte, and Jessica.
I'm not sure that we talked any more about the Carignan, like how it's made.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Of course. So this is one of the great things that I love about this wine. We do this thing called remontage. So it's I think they call it the pump down, or remounting. So you're taking the grapes or the wine out of the bottom of the vat, because when the grapes are harvested, they're destemmed, and so you have all these berries, and the berries float to the top of the tank because of the juice is obviously heavier than the berry. And so they take the juice out of the bottom of the tank and they squirt it in the back and the top of the tank. And as it comes down and lands on those other grapes that are floating, it busts their skin, and the skin breaks and the pigment comes out of the skin, which is why this Carignan has such a dark color, because you have almost 2.5 to 3 weeks of skin contact that gives this wonderful richness to the wine, which is like dark, like Syrah, but it's not. Carignan is not as a dark skinned grape as like Tannat, which is one of my favorite grapes. I love Tannat, but it's a little bit obscure. It's a very dark skin, thick grape. And the Carignan,
I'm one to sell to us.
Yeah, when it's this old, we're only about to 4 tons per acre, which is relatively very low for this grape. But in the general wine market, to give you an example, like something like Chateau Petrus and things like that are like 2.5 to 3.5 tons per acre. So, it all depends on the terroir and things like that. But this wine has a lot of extraction, not only just because of the remontage, but this is all concrete tank. There is no oak in this wine. And so it's a real...
That was literally my next question was, I don't pull any oak in this whatsoever. No. So all concrete.
Yeah.
And yet it's got a heaviness to it that, it gets from the grape.
Yeah, and also the lee contact. So we do a little bit of lee contact, which we do with the white as well. With the white, it's only about 3 to 6 weeks, depending on the vintage. But with the red, we do it a little bit longer. And so that gives this kind of viscosity or heavy richness to the wine without aging it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But it's really clean cut, unadulterated, which is what we want to do with most of the wines that we produce. It's like we're not trying to make it, the Prisoner or something like big, huge, and special occasion wine. We want it to be like a fun, let's start the evening with this and then finish the evening with the Prisoner type of wine.
That's nice of you. They're very nice of you to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I have many friends that love it. Actually, I love the makers of that wine. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah, we carry a lot of their wines.
We do too.
Have a huge following.
Yes.
Yep.
There's a lot of good stuff like that. Like
very diplomatic.
Yeah, and I love that though about this business. I mean, Rombauer is an incredible wine. I went to the Napa Valley Barrel Auction when the owner's wife died of cancer, and they auctioned off barrels, and it was the most magical experience. And those wines are amazing and huge and big and rich, and they're a specific style of wine for a specific moment or a specific person. And I think for me, those wines are more special occasions, like rare type of wines that I drink, because they're so big, they're so intense.
Yeah,
and those wines are amazing, and there's a lot of wines out there. And I think it's important to know that wine shouldn't be something that people judge you for, or there's like a right or wrong. And I think a lot of our customers feel that a lot, and it's weird. I think wine.
I was gonna say, I really don't like it when people, because I drink all wines. I like Rombauer, Chardonnay, and
me too.
People judge you.
That's my sister's best wine. She likes that more than my wine.
What you like? I mean, you drink it because you like it, and I don't think there's no problem with that. Yeah. I mean, people like Camus, which is a big extracted wine. People like
and Sonoma Cutrer. I mean, they're very good wines out there. Yeah. And what we're doing is a little bit different. I mean, we want to have more fun, funky, easygoing, which is kind of like the kind of people we are.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the big influence of that is my mother. My mother has always been a big, somebody that pulls my father and I back to reality a lot.
I love her already. Yes.
Yeah. And like, I really do think that, women are the superior race and you should be running the worlds.
I love that you
That's
love
not
that.
just because of Janie Master, but I do think that generally from all my relationships.
Well, thanks for learning.
I think your dad just asked Petrus in a can.
Petrus in a can. Well, we have our Ti Amo. We have an Italian sparkling wine in a can.
Amo in a can.
Okay, so
It's,
great.
90 calories.
Introduce that because we are a boat town, so we need stuff in cans.
We have
all
a
the time.
ton of stuff. We have a ton of wines in cans here.
So this is a dry white wine.
We absolutely have Ti Amo in the can now.
5% alcohol, certified organically grown grapes. It's vegan. It's organic. It's the tree hugger special.
We're not gonna call out Michael Fix for not telling us about it, but
I don't even know if they have it. I mean, I hope they do. I should.
We don't know.
I dream of Jeannie and
the manager.
Honestly, I mean, we have pools. We have the beach, and we have boats. We need cans,
I love glass is encouraged. So cans are what we need.
Absolutely, and I love the Ti Amo wines. We've had them in the store before, and they're awesome. And now that they're in cans,
250 milliliter.
I can tell.
I'm like super excited.
So it's like White Claw, but better for you.
Oh, way better. Like way better.
No, White Claw is like 4% alcohol, and I'm pretty sure the Ti Amo is not 4% alcohol.
No, it'll be 5. Those cans are 5.
No, really?
Yeah, so the cans it's a spritz. So it's 5% alcohol made with organically grown grapes, only 250 milliliters, vegan, organic.
Vegan?
I have about 10 customers right now that
I mean, I'm so excited to hear about this. I hope they come into Florida.
We do.
Otherwise, I'm going to be so sad.
Yeah, we do have
they will.
Conscious society, community here. Lots of people that are very health conscious and health forward. Many people that care about, ethically grown, vegan, all of those things. And so we're always trying to.
I mean, I need to make a note right now. I'm so excited.
I've always loved your community for that. You guys have always been very conscious about the environmental impact of things, and that's super important to me. So I cannot wait.
She literally just wrote it down that we're going to get these in. So
we need to have a dinner party.
if anybody's watching that wants to have these wines, we shall have them in
as soon as
next
possible.
week. If we can get them in.
And Michael, if your manager didn't take him in yet, I'm sorry, but hopefully he will soon now.
Well, with this
Unfortunately,
vlog,
Michael is off. I don't know what he must have had some technical
connection
difficulties.
yeah.
He's looking for the cans.
But Charlie, thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure, and we really want you to come to Pensacola.
I am
And,
definitely. You don't have to want me. I want to be there more than you want me there. I kid you not. You guys have the most amazing energy, ask the best questions, had the most wonderful experience. I do a lot of these. Well, you know, not anymore because all of a sudden we're opening the country up again, which is great for all of us. But like still, everybody stay careful no matter what. But I want to be able to like get out there and start drinking wine with people, sharing glasses and giving hugs.
yes.
awesome. We can't not wait for you to come.
Yes.
And come. We'll set it up. It'll be a big deal because you're here.
I'll bring
And then we'll
JC.
take you out and we'll take you downtown and we'll do all kinds of fun stuff. And in the
Yeah.
meantime, we'll get your canned wines in for sure.
Definitely.
And we'll
Beautiful.
keep your other wines in the store.
We'll
If
take
anybody's looking, we'll let them know.
And I'll start working on my faux recipe.
Seriously? Oh my gosh, I'd be so fun.
I mean, I've never made it, but hey, we'll start somewhere.
You guys are amazing. This has been
Thank
a
you so
wonderful
much.
experience. I cannot wait to come down there. I'll bring JC with me. You guys are magical.
Absolutely, yes.
Please do.
And send her love to your parents.
I will. Thank you guys. We love you very much. Thank you very much for all your support.
Oh, thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Bye.
Bye.
That was super
That was so cool. Great.
That was super cool. So anyway,
I know,
done.
I'm like-
And now we're like, woo, up close.
We have a
So-
significant height difference, if
I
you guys
know,
didn't know
right?
that about us. So I leaned
Anyway,
over some, but thank you so much for joining us. That was so awesome.
it was. So, I mean, my gosh. So their wines are so good. The white that is 100% Colombard. The rosé is the Cinsault, and the red is the Carignan. All of them are delicious. And they're all line priced at $10
Yeah.
in the store, which is crazy because like I feel like I have to I'm about to like try and do like stock up my shelves, and these are going to be the wines that I'm going to stock up in my house.
Absolutely. I talk about this all the time. You know, you can go to a national chain and get any kind of wine anywhere, but why not come to Aragon and find a $10 bottle that is exceptional
Right.
versus a $10 bottle that is not so good.
Right.
That may
Right.
change your perspective on wine. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
These are delicious. They pair well with all sorts of food, and we can certainly guide you through any questions that you have when you come in the store.
Yeah, and I mean, like these were our featured wine at that whatever month it was, I can't remember.
Before me.
And they were the most popular. It was the most popular wines that we had because they're so good. Every single one of the wines, the white,
They're
rosé,
delicious.
or red. I mean, it's got something for everybody. They also have the Tortoise Creek. We usually keep the Pinot Noir in. They have wonderful wines, Tiamo, and can't believe they're going to have the cans.
I could tell your excitement. Yeah.
I'm still excited.
It's about to go
it.
down. We're getting those in.
I'm still super excited about
I
the
made a
can
note,
wine,
and if
so-
there's a note made,
know.
it's getting ordered.
I know. So super excited. So
Well,
thanks for Charlie for
Yeah.
joining us. So
Next week,
next week, here's the big news, is next week we are going to do our wine tastings here in the store. We're going to do our wine tastings here,
at the
not
shop,
in the store.
in the courtyard.
We're going to do it in the courtyard.
Yes.
Michael Fix is going to be here, and we're going to pick 5 or 6 different wines just like we normally do. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be almost like it used to be. We're going to have it outside. Masks, I would say, are appreciated. You don't have to wear a mask. They're not mandatory,
Yeah,
but
it's
they
not
are
required.
appreciated.
Yeah,
if you
but
want to wear
appreciate
your
and we
mask.
respect your.
We've got
Yeah.
plenty of room outside for social distancing, and we're going to follow all the rules to be careful. So
Absolutely. We've been taking extra caution of sanitizing the shop on a regular basis, making sure that everything is super clean. You'll find us, we always joke, this isn't about you, as we spritz the little transaction machine with
as you leave the store, we spritz
no offense.
it.
You know, we really are working diligently to keep the shop clean and make sure
Yeah.
everybody's very comfortable. Certainly it's at your discretion whether or not you want to wear the mask. They're encouraged,
sure.
but we respect your, discretion on that.
Yep.
And we're going to be taking our parts and making sure that we do what we need to do to make sure everything is sanitized. But we're so excited to have you guys back.
Yeah.
For the
I know.
wine
It's like
tasting next
super
week.
exciting.
And this is a big note I wanted to mention, just that if you wanted to come into the shop and have a glass with your friend or with after work with your coworker for happy hour or with your girlfriend and have a little, date getaway before dinner, you absolutely now can come back into the shop and open a bottle and sit and imbibe and enjoy yourselves and just, have a little sip any day of the week, even if we're not doing the wine tasting.
We're kind of one of those places that, like, if you really just want to just chill and not see anybody,
Don't tell anybody you're coming.
I just want to sit out in the back courtyard and just chill and not have to talk to anybody.
Yeah,
it's kind of a good spot here.
Yes.
When I would go out, sometimes there were just times I just wanted to not see anybody and I just wanted to just do my thing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so there's always places you should want to just go and you just want to just like chill and we're that place.
Yeah, absolutely. My mother calls me the mayor because everywhere we go, I've got to, say hello to people and kiss the babies. So, that's how it goes in Pensacola. They call it the 6 degrees of separation. In Pensacola, it's the 2 degrees of separation.
Exactly.
And everybody knows everybody. And we're so happy to have you back in the shop.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say is that we are also going to continue the virtual wine tastings once a month. We are trying to decide between Mondays or Wednesdays. We'd like your input. It's going to be once a month, maybe the third Monday or the third Wednesday. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
We would like to hear, your input because,
I think one of the coolest things about the last 8 weeks and what this transition has brought to us is the opportunity to reach out to the winemakers or the national distributors. I mean, we just were with Charles Master, who is the national distributor of his parent, a family-owned operation that literally, is someone that, not that our local distributors and reps are amazing, they are, but to have that direct knowledge.
And we talked to Julie Johnson.
We talked to Julie Johnson
2 weeks
we
ago.
talked to the guys from
the winemakers,
Marietta Cellars and
Left
Coast Cellar, or Marietta, and Left Coast Cellars.
So we want to be able to still, have those kind of connections with people.
Mm-hmm.
But we do
still do the wine tasting in
the
person,
wine tastings here because it brings us all together. So,
and the cool thing is that it's kind of evergreen. So once we record it, it's there. So if you wanted to buy a bottle in 6 months and you're like, I don't really know about this white Pinot Noir from Left Coast Cellars, we could say, oh hey,
or the Mont Gravet. What is
absolutely.
this white? This Colombard? What is that? Oh, well, they've done a video on this, so let's go check it out. So
absolutely. Well, I think that's our time today. We'll see you next week in person. Bye, y'all.
See you then.